Man,
All right, all right. Good afternoon. I would be, as I always say, I would be remiss to not mention how handsome you look today, Howie. I just got
well,
to tell you. I got to tell you every time. You better with age. Better with age.
I thank you for that. It's been a couple weeks since you've seen me, so
It
I've
has
gone
been
gone through a little bit of change there. I shaved off most of the beard, kept a little bit of it. So glad to know you like
excellent.
that look.
Much appreciated. Awesome. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. Looks like we got a solid group. I'm excited. And for those of you here for the first time, welcome. My name is Brendan King. I'm the CEO and founder of Crisis Consultant Group. And on with me today is Howie Scott, who is the head of our Active Threat Response Training Division. And I see already those of you who are making notes in the chat. That's fantastic. See you chiming in. Appreciate where you're coming from. All right, Trish, repeat offender. I would like that from Orlando. Got some good friends in Orlando. So Galveston, Texas, West Virginia. I love it. Maryland's in the house. Washington State. I think it was last week you had some folks from the UK, right? Jersey's representing. All right, Kayla. I think right. Was it the UK, Howie? Or
2 weeks ago, yeah, it was Prague. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Germany. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. So really excited to have you all here. Our goal, we launched these webinars right when COVID hit because we recognied that we want, the whole reason I started this company years ago was to be able to increase safety and security for myself. It was selfish. In the hospital where I was working, I knew that the training we were receiving was not effective. And I had always thought to myself that maybe one day if I could create my own curriculum, my own program where we could increase the safety of staff as well as the consumers we serve, I thought we would just be in a far better position. And so, 16 years ago, I put this company together and it's really evolved now into, I like to say a global movement because we have done international training. Most of our training has been here in the United States, though more and more, especially the last few years with more availability with online training, we've really been all over. And it's truly just a really great opportunity to get the word out. And so when COVID hit, we basically said, hey guys, I want to create an opportunity where we can, just put information out there like this that's free. And we do it. It's a 30-minute, session. We promise every Thursday, East Coast time. I think we're on episode like maybe 30 something now. We're planning to have obviously posting these past replays. So for those of you maybe just love it so much and you just can't get enough, we're going to post them all online. You will get, for those of you here today, you will get an email that has an automatic replay, which you can share it with folks. So if you enjoy what you hear today, please, we always encourage you to pass it on. Also, for those of you that attend, we do provide certificates of attendance for it. So for those of you highly motivated folks that want to provide your employer, or you just love having plaques on the wall like Howie right there of things you've accomplished, we do give those out. And at the end of the training, Tracy will put the email of who you need to contact in order to receive that, so you can get some credit for it. So with that, my bio is on the website. Howie's is on there too. I'm not going to bore you, but we're both, I like to consider myself a spider monkey ninja. Real small, real tiny, but a vicious, and just Howie is more like the silverback gorilla, I think. Would that be correct? Good assumption? I think so. He's frozen up, so I think I scared him quite a bit. I don't know. Maybe I lost him. We'll see what happens. But so today the topic is we are going to focus on situational safety, as well as I think, Howie, your video has frozen. Howie, are you still with us? He looks quite angry. Is anybody still with us? Say yay or nay. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Scott says yes. Okay, good. So I'm going to keep going. Howie, hopefully he'll rejoin us here at some point. Awesome. Thank you all. So situational safety. Last night I was reviewing actually a video that I saw online that came in, and some of you may have seen this. It's making headlines today. There was a gentleman inside of an IHOP, I believe with his girlfriend or someone he's with there. And he's sitting there reading a menu. It looks like he's reading the menu before they were seated. And at one point, an employee, maybe the hostess or a manager, makes contact and says something to the effect, you can't hear the audio, but you can see the video, lets him know he needs to be wearing a mask. And for whatever reason, at that point, he escalates and the situation starts to go back and forth, and it escalates all the way to the point where he grabs a knife from someone who was maybe there with him, I imagine, a pocket knife, flips it open, and he chases after the hostess or the manager, whoever it was, and slashes her in the arm. And so, just about an hour ago, I was doing a presentation for one of the world's largest defense contractors. And we were talking about this exact topic. And we were talking about how if we look at those individuals that commit acts of violence, those of you that work in mental health, or you're working in an environment where you're regularly meeting with individuals that have a propensity to violence, that they've either arrived at your organization with some history that has led them to be there. So when I worked in Lock Residential, every youth, every patient or adult that we had, they had to have some sort of background, and they were either homicidal or suicidal in the last 24 to 48 hours to allow them to be admitted to our facility. And so they were definitely individuals who were actively violent. But for those of you who are working in situations or workplaces where maybe it's educational, you're joining us today, or some other type of maybe a shelter environment, whether it's corporate, whether it's law enforcement, security, you don't necessarily have that same background, that same history with the individual to know what happened before they came to you. All you have is what they're presenting with. And so if we look at the situation from last night and this individual who showed up, I don't know much about him, and none of us do, right? Until that information comes out. So he shows up. There you are, Howie. Good to see you. Lost him again. This is magic. So he shows up. But what I would tell you is when he showed up, he's sitting there peacefully, right? We're trying to get Howie. This is great. This is fun. This is comedic value. I love it.
I love it.
You didn't miss anything. It's just me. But so he shows up and he's reading the menu. So what that tells me is that this was not an individual that planned. I truly don't believe he planned to show up that night and slash an employee at the local IHOP. He showed up to eat dinner and probably get his Rudy Tooty fresh and fruity special breakfast, right? It was always a good one, right? I just love the commercials. Those of you, now I'm taking it way back. Those of you recognize that. But so he didn't show up there with the intention to commit an act of violence. But yet, maybe due to COVID, due to obviously being asked to wear a mask, due to the pressure and tension that we all are experiencing, and the political landscape. I mean, there's a laundry list of things going on right now in the world that we could all easily say are creating additional tension, additional stress. I mean, how many of you here on the call today, I'm sure, are maybe being dually tasked with being a teacher, helping your kids do their homework or do their schoolwork day in and day out because of school's been canceled, right? Live in person. And so all of these additional stressors are in place. So here's this guy who shows up, he's reading a menu, not really visibly presenting any threat, gets asked by an employee to put on a mask, and now is escalated so much so to the point that he asks for a knife and he gets it and he goes and commits this act of violence. So what we're going to focus on here today, and Howie, I know, has already got some great stuff to talk about, some tips and tools to help raise your level of awareness. Because unfortunately, when it comes to violence being committed against us, the majority of times people that are victims of violence do not see the attack coming. They may get a feeling, they may have something, a gut feeling. Often animals are better predictors of this, right? You go to walk your dog, and for whatever reason, your dog starts growling at somebody as you're getting ready to pass them on the street. And later you're like, you're pulling on your dog. No, Fluffy, whatever your dog's name is. And, come back. And yet that dog is picking up on something that doesn't feel right. And if we all as humans started to trust that instinct that we do have, that something tells us, you go out on a first date, right? Another example, I've experienced this, but you go out on a first date and you're there and something within a matter of minutes is going, something doesn't feel right. But we make excuses for it. And we often try to tell ourselves, well, I'm just being paranoid. Well, I'm just, I'm overly sensitive. So there's a line where what you're seeing and feeling is correct. Gavin Becker, in his book, The Gift of Fear, great book if you've never read it, talks about how our fear keeps us safe. But there's also that balancing act, right? Of is my past trauma or situations I've been involved in making me hyper paranoid and freaking out unnecessarily, or should I, as Kristen just said, trust my spidey sense and say, you know what, something doesn't feel right, and I need to pay attention to that and allow myself and my body to pay more attention to what's going on. So Howie, go ahead and hopefully you're going to stay with us this time, and we'll let you take it over.
Yeah, I was getting a little bored of you talking, so I just jumped off, man. That's something I've never experienced before. My computer screen just went black and said it's experiencing a problem. So fortunately, I was able to get back in. Nice to see you guys missed me.
Yep.
So today we're talking about situational safety, awareness of violent indicators. And I think it's something that, maybe we're not as aware about, or maybe it's drifted off some because we're just not moving around as much as we were. We're staying more homeward bound unless you have to go into work. But my experience in watching people, and it could be the mask thing too, it's kind of made them go more into like a cocoon, and just inside themselves more. And I don't see as many people with their heads up walking around from the grocery store parking lot to the mall parking lot, wherever they may be going in. I see more drawn in body behavior within themselves, not like before. And then what comes along with that right afterwards is what's in their hand, their phone, right? So often I see people that could be potential victims just based on the fact that they're buried in their phone. I call it technical blinders that we put on. We grab our phone, we get out of our car, and we start walking to our destination. And within 5-10 car spaces, we got to answer that text. That alone puts you in such a vulnerable area. The distance that can be encountered by someone who means you harm before you even react or don't even react. I'm sure we've all had encounters with people walking down the street and they're on their phone, and you walk right by them, or you walk right behind them. I know years ago we were in New York, and a young girl came out of a yoga studio, and Brendan and I had just finished eating dinner, and we were probably within 6 feet of her the whole time. And it wasn't until probably a block and a half before she even realized anybody else was behind her. But she had her earbuds in, and she was on her phone, definitely distracted. And distractions are one of the biggest things that create an episode for us to miss violent indicators. I'm sure in the IHOP incident, there were some acts of violence, verbally, most possibly, that were ignored or distracted, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times in these violent indicators are being given off, one of the most natural things to do is close the distance. Hey, I just need you to calm down for a second. Can you just do me a favor? Can you please calm down? And we step into a potentially violent situation, giving up our own freedom of space, right? We all have that space bubble. We don't want people to encroach, but we will be, if we feel like we're in a position of authority, or even just a position that we feel like we need to step up and say something. I had an opportunity to engage with someone just the other day. I was sitting outside of my daughter's dance studio waiting for her to get done with dance. And these two younger guys in their 20s came walking down, and one of them threw a plastic cup in on the ground. And I'm just a big advocate of not littering. Can't stand it. And so I rolled my window down and I started looking at them, and both of them appeared to be under the influence of something, right? And I had to reevaluate really quickly. Is this something I want to get into? One guy, probably about 6'2", 160 pounds, not a real big guy. The other guy, big guy. Now I have to evaluate, where's this going to go? Are these guys acting rationally? Is this a potential indicator of potential violence? Or is it just a couple of knuckleheads throwing a cup on the ground? So my choice was, I'm not going to get involved because if I get involved, it's not going to end well for somebody, right? And I let him walk ahead. Another guy saw it, and from his car, he started voicing his concern over what they'd done, and they became escalated very, very quickly, right? And he drove off. So I let them walk by. I went and got the cup and put it in the dumpster, right? Maybe with age comes some knowledge, but those indicators were there, and I was able to evaluate it from distance as opposed to just stepping up into it and being there. I don't know either one of their skill sets. So if I go into a altercation verbally and their skill sets are way higher than mine, then the outcome for me is not very good. Couldn't tell if they were armed. They were wearing jackets. Didn't know if they had any potential weapons that could hurt me. But it's very easy at that point in time, especially when you see or hear something that pushes your buttons, to let your pride and ego put you in a dangerous situation. And I was able to back down from that. So I think, one of the first things I would encourage people to do when they go someplace, known or unknown, is to do a recon of the area they're in. When I go to dance, not me personally, but my kids do, 3 times a week. And I always circle the parking lot once before I drop them off. I'm not comfortable dropping off younger girls at a dance studio in a parking lot full of unknown cars. So I check it out. And that's just one of my things that I encourage people always do a recon of your situation prior to leaving what I call a safe zone. So if you look at your vehicle and it's taking you there, presume that that's a safe area, right? And so take the time and the advantage of making sure that area is safe prior to exiting your safe area. It could be coming out of your building. Don't just walk out your building, right? Scan what's going on prior to leaving. That leads me to my acronym of SCAN. Confirm, act, and act now. So it's SCAN. See what is going on, and before you leave your safe area, make sure you're scanning that area, right? Confirm it, what you saw. Is that really somebody that, has got an issue out there that's causing a disturbance, or am I just going to ignore it? And then if you have to act, you act right now. So it's a real easy acronym to keep in mind because it's actually telling you to do something. It's telling you to scan, see, confirm, act now.
I love it. I love it. So no, those are great points. Let me stop you for a moment. You hit on a number of pieces, and I think that when it comes to safety, and I was just reminded. So when I came through sniper school, Howie was one of the instructors, and one of the things you taught us was when we go back to our jurisdiction, that now as a potential sniper that I might have to get involved in a police sniper situation, to look at all of the buildings, all of the different corporate workplaces, and go around them, look at them, and imagine if I had to be deployed in a sniper scenario where I may have to take action, where would I need to go that would give me the best vantage point on either the exit doors, entrance doors, what have you. And when I heard it, I was like, what? Why in the world would I do that? Well, the whole point was so that when the actual incident happened, I already had a plan in place that I knew that if somebody was if this bank was getting robbed, this was the door in and out, and the best place for me to get set up to where I could have visual sight on that door would be there. Because the last thing I want to do is show up in this highly stressed situation trying to come up with a plan then. And so that leads right into having a plan and reverse engineering and saying, okay, I know that when I go to work, we've heard this time and time again when we teach across the country where we'll go to a place and they say, Brennan, where I work, there's every time I've told maintenance so many times that the lights over the parking lot, they need to replace them. Like they're not pointed in the right direction, or there's not enough lights and there's none there. And we know about these potential vulnerabilities and challenges, but yet we get so accustomed to routine that maybe the first time we walked out to our car or we were in a situation that made us tense up because it was uncomfortable, we've gotten so used to it being that way that now, well, I've walked out to my car, it's been in the dark a million times, probably nothing's going to happen, I'm okay. And so we let our guard down. We don't have a plan. And I always tell people, it's not about being paranoid. It's about being prepared, right? Any training you go to in regards to increasing your self-awareness, it is not to try to create a scenario where you feel additional stress that it drives you to a place of feeling paranoid, but instead you are prepared. And as Howie, you were just mentioning, with COVID, one of the pieces with masks is you can't see whether that individual is smiling or not. I just saw at the grocery store the other day, somebody had a mask on and it said, "I'm smiling under here." And I thought, what a cool little, wording underneath the mask, because it kind of, I can't tell if you're smiling when you're wearing it, but seeing that just all automatically made me picture that, oh, this person is smiling underneath their mask, right? And as a result, my anxiety was lessened. And so recognizing that we truly cannot see what's going on all the time if we're not paying attention to what it is we're seeing, whether, like you said, the hands or the other body language. But it's more important that I have a plan that says, and I think it through, like you did with those gentlemen on the side of the road. You have no idea what they were up to. No idea. And we have to think about what battle is worth getting involved in. Is this, I love the fact that you just ended it with, I walked over, I grabbed the cup afterwards, and I threw it away. Because that's the message, truly, that we all want to send. Is like, hey, I saw you do what you did, and I'm not here. I'm not going to, make it some big issue where I'm calling you to task on it. But you know what? At some point, I go over and I pick it up. Why? Because I know when I put my head on the pillow tonight, I know I did the right thing. And I also didn't expose myself to unnecessary violence over, Tim Larkin, right? Former Navy SEAL. He created that incredible program called Target Focused Training. And it, teaches you all these ninja skills, how to rip off people's ears and do all kinds of ninja stuff. Well, one of his books that he put out, it says, when violence isn't always the answer, but when it is, it's the only answer, right? And that's kind of his quote. And his point is that the only reason you should ever be in a self-defense scenario where you are having to utilize self-defense would be in the defense of your life or the life of someone else, period. Not over somebody throwing a cup down on the ground, right? Not somebody, cutting you off in traffic, not somebody telling you, hey, you need to put a mask on, right? Because if we find ourselves in a scenario where it began with a simple altercation that now we're in a self-defense situation, then who really is at fault? Mm-hmm. And so I love the fact that you thought it through and said, this isn't something that in today's society I'm going to risk the tension and the threat of everything that's going on to get involved in this. It's the best way I can make a stand is to go grab the cup and put it away. And I think, and it just speaks to obviously your character, and it speaks and it sends a message of like, what is it that we truly want to be our legacy? And when I'm with my kids, or my son, and we think about what message I'm sending, I want him to be aware. And yet at the same time, I don't want him to be paranoid. I'll turn it back over to you in a second. Jordan Peterson, who I listen to, I love his stuff quite a bit if anybody's ever heard of him. He talks about how we're actually doing our children a disservice by teaching them to be terrified of strangers and to be quiet and don't, right? Because in reality, what we want them to recognize is that to have this confidence that if somebody does try to threaten me or kidnap me or what, that they will be loud and fight against it, right? So often we're like telling our kids, calm down, quiet down, don't, and we do want them to be behaved, but to be fearful of strangers. And I'm guilty of this. I grew up teaching my son to be very fearful of the unknown. And I now realize at 10 years old, I did not do him a good service. And because of law enforcement and military background, I'm always probably over paranoid, right? And looking for the worst, that you end up creating a scenario where those that you love, you create a sense of paranoia instead of being prepared. So very great points, Howie, and keep at it, man. I love the SCAN acronym.
Yeah, man. So it was just one of those incidents. I think I had an opportunity to reflect on my training and the training I've had since joining CCG in a de-escalation side, right? And part of that de-escalating that was not getting involved from the start. the fight, you win is the one you don't have to get into.
Mhm.
So, yeah. So just thinking about it while it's going on, I was looking at the chat, and I was just going to ask, test our folks here. What are some of the things you think are indicators of potential violence? I know what I think, and I know Brendan knows his too, but I would like to get some of your input here. Also in the chat, just throw one or two up if you have something that you think or you've seen. I know some of us are coming from bigger cities, and I always take advantage of the folks that live in those big cities. City smarts is something. Street smarts is something you just can never underestimate how much knowledge is there, for sure. I mean, people in New York and Chicago and Philly and all those big cities like that, they have a lot of street smarts. They see things way before people who live out like me out in the country, but they know when something's going on. It's like when I was working the jail. When guys went upstairs and put their shoes on, they're getting ready to fight, right? And then they don't fight in the shower shoes. But, it's interesting with COVID and everything, talking about it and looking at the stats that have been coming out this year as far as crime. Overall violent crime is down. Robberies, rapes. The only one that's gone up is the homicide rate. The homicide rate has gone up dramatically. And it's gone up in like 27 major cities. It went up 53% during the summer months. Now, more people are out during the summer. But it also kind of gives you an indication of the temperature of the nation, and so many different controversial topics going on, and where people are at their boiling point. So I think, just like the IHOP incident, the indicators are there, and we're either choosing to address the guys who threw the cup, and a violent clash happens. And we're not resisting because our temperatures are up too, right? I mean, there could have been an opportunity to take out a lot of frustration of things, in my life on those two guys. But obviously, I thought better of that. But I think it's interesting to see that fact of the most violent crime skyrocketing. The other crimes are down. Thought processes with the police executive forums that due to the crimes, opportunities just aren't there because there's less foot traffic and less opportunities for robberies and carjackings and some of the other more violent crimes. But a lot of these homicides are actually linked to domestic violence. People not dealing with their mental issues that they might be having due to COVID or other things that have been undiagnosed till now. So I think the violence can happen just about anywhere, as we know, home, work, at the grocery store. We just have to keep ourselves aware. And the best way to be aware of something is to be away from it, right? Have distance. Distance is your friend. It also provides you the opportunity for cover, concealment, things that you might need to find in a hurry. But if you're right on top of it, I was just thinking while you're talking, Brendan, one of the things that COVID has done, at least, it's gotten us more than an arm's length away from people, right? Because we always talk about what's a safe distance. Well, at least we should be starting 6 feet away, right? If people start encroaching that might be another indicator that they're not respecting the social distancing and may have other plans. So
absolutely. That's such a great point, Howie, is that, we've taught for years in our physical de-escalation training. So as most of you know, we teach verbal de-escalation as well as physical and a restraint and all that for hospitals, healthcare, that sort of thing, security, even law enforcement. We train quite a bit, actually getting ready to do some training. Well, you know what? I won't publicly announce it yet, but a large law enforcement group in the nation's capital. But, one of the most important things when it comes to physical violence is, and Tony Blauer said this, I can't take credit for it. He said real fights happen in the space of a phone booth. So those of you that are old enough to remember a phone booth, right, that real fights in physical violence, we have to be close to each other in order for it to occur, right, and from a physical perspective. And so, yes, this fact of having this distance does create an additional opportunity and actually a benefit to us that if we see someone not respecting the 6-foot rule, then it could be an early indicator that this individual has something else that either maybe they're just distracted, they're, and unaware, but it should be a key to let us know, like, hey, this is not the norm right now. And granted, I mean, I think we've all been out and been in situations where you kind of forget that this, I mean, I got in the grocery store and if they didn't have those marks on the ground, I like move right up and then I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sorry, and move back. But the reality being is that, yes, if we're aware of it and we're in a situation where there is this, most of the people in the area are following the 6-foot rule and then somebody's not, that may be a clear indicator of something potentially brewing. So, excellent. I'm seeing some great answers over here in the chat. And quite frankly, I can't believe we're already at the 30-minute mark. So we could rock and roll with these things constantly. I want to let everybody know, thank you for being here today. If you enjoyed what we talked about today, awesome. I appreciate that. We have, of course, online training. We do these webinars every week, every Thursday. You're already registered. You'll get an email letting you know, because if you're here today, you registered, it'll let you know it's coming. You'll also receive an email at the end with the replay. For those of you who care to get a certificate, Tracy just put in the chat, you're going to shoot an email to Tammy@crisisconsultantgroup.com. We'll get you a certificate of attendance. And definitely, if there's anything we can do, you have any great topics, feel free to shoot it to us. We'll be happy to cover it. Howie, my friend, you did amazing. I'm very thankful you got your camera working, because I know everybody was already texting saying, we don't want to hear from you, Brendan. We want out. Good stuff. All right, everybody. So be careful. Be situationally safe. Do one thing this week before the end of the week. Let's say we got today and tomorrow. I want to challenge you to do one thing today or tomorrow that is a clear indicator of you raising your situational awareness in the next environment you go into. So with that, Howie, have a great day. Everybody take care and be safe. We'll see you next time. Thanks.